Good morning, everybody, and a very, very warm welcome on this Sunday morning. Uh, yeah, I know the temperatures are soaring, but looking at the interest of people, we've already got almost 240 people who have logged in, and it's very heartwarming actually in this hot summer. So thank you all for joining. Today, we have an interesting session on something that mostly people don't talk about. What we've observed over the years is that people keep money management with one person in the family most of the time. Not always, but most of the times. And that could be fine from the point of view of job division, work division, that in a family of 4 or a family of 10, depending on whether it's a nuclear family or a joint family, uh, each individual member takes up certain responsibilities. From job division point of view, it could be right, but then, and it is this whatever comes after this then is what we are going to discuss today. But before we begin, let me also thank Masterstroke and Axis Mutual Fund for, because of them, we are here today together. They have brought this event, put this event together, and without that support, this event would not have been possible. So, huge, heartfelt gratitude to both Axis Mutual Fund and Masterstroke. So with that, let's start. Let's go back to a couple of years, and that was. The memory of those days is also a bit scary because that's when the second wave of COVID-19 hit all of us, and as we all know, it was a tragic moment. So I'm sorry to start with a slightly somber kind of story in the initial slide itself, but I think it's important to remind us of some of those just to set the context right. I know some of us must have had some very sad memories. I also lost family members, so I know how painful it was during that period. But let's look at some of the stories that we heard through various financial advisors, mutual fund distributors, and their clients. What happened in the lives of their clients. There was a gentleman who was working in a firm, and he got hospitalized due to the COVID-19 infection. Incidentally, his company provided for the medical insurance cover. The moment this person's colleagues got to know about hospitalization, they got in touch with the family. Those were the days when physical movements were not possible, or rather restricted to a great extent, and to an extent it was out of fear also. But at least they could provide the details of the health insurance cover that the company had, the facility, and they got in touch with the third-party administrator through their HR and admin departments of the company, and the expenses were taken care of. But at the same time, there was another incident wherein this person had taken health insurance separately. A self-employed person got hospitalized. He was the only one managing the money matters of the for the family. And when he got into the hospital, he was really in a bad shape, unable to breathe. And to that extent, he was unable to talk to anybody. No mobile phones were allowed where this person was. There was no way the family could get in touch. And all the insurance details were on at some place where the family was not aware of. The family had to do a lot of running around to arrange for money to pay for the hospital bills. Now, this was one part, but in another case, it became even worse because a similar situation happened in case of somebody who was also managing bank accounts for all the family members, and the checkbooks also were kept at a place. Family had little knowledge of it. They did not know the balance available in the bank, and again they had to do a lot of running around. Fortunately, because they could find checkbooks, they could go to the bank and withdraw money or make the payments to the hospital, etc. But just imagine that these details were not available. The password was only known to the person, and how do you pay the bills? It became even worse in another case where after a brief stay in the hospital in the ICU, the person succumbed. And family could not even, during that difficult phase, which was emotionally challenging, they could not manage, the payments in time, and they had to borrow money from friends and relatives. There were a few cases where the accounts were held in single name, nominations were not assigned, and the person passed away. Wherever possible, the family could find details, but in certain cases, the details were known to them only much later. Even today, as we speak, it's roughly 2 years period has passed, and the family is still struggling. They do not have all the details yet. If anybody has faced it, the procedure is not easy when the accounts are held in a single name and there is no nomination. So that's a lot of work involved. Now, why am I mentioning these things and why COVID? Now, somebody may think that a COVID is not going to happen again. And I also sincerely pray to God that we don't have to see another COVID-like situation ever in our life. Nobody has to see that. But that still does not rule out the possibility of these events at an individual level. And let's go back to 2016. 20th February 2016, I had a health scare. Till 18th of February, there was no problem. 19th February, I went to Delhi. By lunchtime, I started feeling a bit uneasy. I thought it's related to food because I was just feeling nauseating. So I avoided eating for the day. And then eventually on 20th, by afternoon, I had to be taken to hospital. There was a health issue. I'm not going into the details of my health issue. The only thing that I wanted to highlight out here is till morning of 19th February, I was okay. And afternoon of 20th February, I was straight into the ICU. It happened absolutely suddenly. My wife and I had no clue, but it happened. This is a personal event. Now, whatever happened, happened. I survived. I'm well now. But there are a few lessons that I could pick up out of this incident. I've actually written it in a small booklet called Personal Finance Lessons from the ICU. I've picked up 4 lessons out of this book. Okay. Number 1, when we hear stories of bad things happening to people, the first thought that comes to mind is, yeah, it happens to people, it doesn't happen to me, it won't happen to me, it can't happen to me. This is something that I had never thought of, but it happened with me. And that's why I'm sharing my personal story, that it happened with me. And I was exactly facing the same thought. I was having the same thoughts that this cannot happen to me. I mean, yeah, I've met a lot of people in the ICU. I've met a lot of people in the hospital. I don't have to go to the hospital. And I landed up without any knowledge, any prior notice. Again, my sincere prayer that no single individual has to face these difficulties. My sincere prayers. But prayer is one part, preparation is another part. And that preparation is entirely in our control. So let's decide to prepare. If something happens, then are we prepared or not? Second, all these stories that I discussed, all these incidents that I discussed were only to bring out one particular point. And let's go back to my story where I said on 18th and actually on 19th till lunchtime, I was perfectly fine. Lunchtime, I started feeling a bit uneasy. But that uneasiness happens, I mean, every now and then to almost everybody. Sometimes there is some, fatigue, some stomach ache, some cold, some cough. But these things do happen. These are common things. And the feeling at that time was exactly similar. The problem was much bigger inside the body, and I did not know. The problem was not known. And when the problem is not known, we don't find solutions. The idea of sharing all these stories was to highlight that these problems can happen. And let's hope they don't happen, but the probability is not zero. More related to today's topic, lot of times we don't know what we don't know, and especially with respect to our health. So I remember Steve Jobs said once, and then if you all know, the Apple founder, died of pancreatic cancer, and he said, I got to know about an organ called pancreas only after the cancer was detected. When the doctor told me you got pancreatic cancer, that's when I realized there is a tiny organ called pancreas in the body, and that does certain functions. A lot of times, we don't even know what we don't know. And that knowledge, because we don't know, it's difficult to realize. Now, in certain cases, it is possible to know a few things. In certain cases, it's impossible to know. But let's take the case of the gentleman whose health insurance details were not known to the family. The family did not know if there was health insurance. The family did not know if there was a health insurance, whether it was reimbursement based or cashless. The family did not know where to find the documents and details about that health insurance. The case of succession that we discussed, the family does not know. And in the health insurance case, at least when the person came out, because they did not avail of cashless, they could get reimbursement. But the person who could not survive, that person's family, even today, after 2 years, does not fully know whether they have recovered all the money or not. So it applies more to the family in this particular case. So when I am managing my family's finances, does my family know? And lesson number 4. COVID may not happen again ever in our lifetime. Does it mean that we should not be prepared? I'm healthy. Does it mean I should not take care of my health? It's actually, as the popular saying goes, it's no point digging a well after the house has caught fire. The well has to be dug well before there is any hint of a fire taking place. And from that point of view, Let's prepare. The subject of money management is also called personal finance. We manage our money. Very often we come across some weird situations, and a lot of mutual fund distributors, a lot of financial advisors have shared this with me. I'm not an advisor or I'm not a mutual fund distributor. That's why I draw examples that they have shared with me. In a couple of cases, a few people have expressed this surprise, mutual fund distributors in particular, that the person who's investing money says that please don't tell my spouse that I've invested this money. I don't want him or her to know that I've got so much money. And to my mind, it's a bit of a surprise. However, a lot of people, I mean, they must have some reason that they want to hide it, but a lot of people do not want to hide it, but because they don't tell, the family does not know. The situation, end result is similar in both the cases. The starting point is different. But let's look at why of some of the things. Health insurance is taken not because we want to fall sick. Health insurance is taken because in case of certain situation called hospitalization, large expenses pertaining to healthcare or treatments, there is less financial burden on the family because that small premium that we pay every year, that helps us meet that large expense at the time of that bad event. That's why we buy health insurance. The purpose is that large expense is funded through an instrument called health insurance. And in such a case, if health insurance is available, but we are unable to avail the benefit that it offers, then the purpose itself is lost. Health insurance is still relatively easier. Life insurance is even worse. The earning member's life is lost. And earning member, there is an emotional loss, there is a financial loss. You can't do anything about the emotional loss by giving money to somebody, but at least the financial loss, which happened on account of loss of income because the person is no more, that loss can be compensated through buying life insurance policy. Now imagine that the earning member has gone, which means there is no income coming in the family, and the details of the insurance policy are not available. The so-called corpus, which was supposed to be available, well, if one has the documents, it can be claimed. If one does not start the claim procedure, that money is gone. And when we earn and save and invest and build wealth, build corpus, build large amounts, who are we doing it for? In most cases, we are doing it for our family's financial life when we are alive. And when we are gone, we want to leave a legacy for the next generation, our legal heirs. And that's the whole purpose of creating wealth and leaving to the next generation. But these are the purposes. Now, should that purpose be properly served? While planning is a very important part, buying health insurance, life insurance, investing money, all these are essential elements of the plan. But accessing that money when the need arises is probably the biggest purpose for which everything else was done in the beginning. And that's why a simple 3-word advice for all who are managing their finances themselves, even if your family is not interested in getting involved in money management, even if they are not skilled enough or equipped enough to manage money for the family, please tell them. My wife is a homemaker. I've been into finance industry for 30 years and 2 kids. So my family as such, out of 4, only 1 understands money management and is interested. That's me. The other 3, they they are not interested in getting into the intricacies of various financial instruments, financial markets, etc., etc. But every year, though it's not a fixed date, but every year, almost once or twice, and once minimum, I sit with my family and open all the documents and tell them the whole picture. I started involving my kids when my daughter is elder, son is younger. So when the daughter was 12 years old, I started involving her. And when my son was 12-year old, I started involving him as well, or telling him as well. And the kids would say, Papa, I don't understand any of these things. I said, no problems, you should know. The question a lot of people have asked me is, if they don't understand, how does it help to tell them? So let's see, what do I tell them? Of course, the entire statement is shown, which means they also get to know the rupee amount. But even if you do not want to show the rupee amounts, so where are the investment, how much is the value of investment, what are the insurance policies, what are the claims, if there are any loans, bank accounts, etc. But forget about amounts. These 3 are far more important than that. Number 1, category, products. Number 2, place or location where certain documents are kept. And number 3, the people they should know about. Let's take each one individually. So first of all, when we talk about products, totally there are 8 categories, and then there is one more, which I've clubbed as other investments. But there are certain investments which are more common, and that's why I've separately mentioned. And some of the others can be grouped together. So that's why they've been grouped together as other investments. This is not just about investments, as you can see. It's about the bank accounts, it's about investments, it's about insurance, loans, and of course, for those who are working, there are employee benefits which are available, and those details also should be known. First of all, whatever number of bank accounts are there, these details, a lot of banks offer something called a customer ID, which is linked to a person, and the person may have multiple accounts, but both are required. If you go to some of the, and especially this is prevalent more in private banks, I'm not sure about PSUs, because in PSUs I have not seen this customer ID facility that openly. But if I go to a particular bank and give my customer ID, the relationship manager or the branch manager or the operations manager can tell me details of all my relations with that particular bank, and all my relations would include my bank accounts, my a demat account, if there is one, if there is a locker, if there are fixed deposits, they'll be able to tell me about all these details. Of course, PAN also can be given, and some of the banks also offer that facility. Using PAN, they can do the search. But as far as the bank is concerned, the family need not only depend on the shortcuts like knowing the PAN or the customer ID. It's important to know about each account separately. So know about the bank and the branch where the account is, the account number as well as the customer ID. What kind of accounts are these? Is it a savings account? Is it current account? It is overdraft account? It is fixed deposit. I'm covering later, so that's why I've not taken it out here. If there is a locker, the last point says the locker number, and again the location of that locker, which means which bank and which branch, etc. What is the mode of operation? Once again, there could be, the banks offer multiple modes of operation. One is single, second is joint, third is either or survivor. The fourth and a lesser known facility is first holder or survivor, which I discovered when I was, dealing with one particular relative's account, and in that case, that lady is she's a widow, and she's got two daughters who are living in different cities. So for her bank account, the bank proposed that you open first holder or survivor type of mode of operation, which means so long as she is alive, only she can operate the account. After her death, the second holder can operate the account on production of death certificate. So that's a facility which is available. Though it is slightly off the topic, but I thought it's relevant here. The type of the mode of operation. What are the nomination details? Whose names are registered? In most of the cases, up to 3 nominations are allowed, and you can also specify percentages. This helps in succession because in the financial institutions, it's easier to get money in the name of the nominee. If in the absence of nomination, the process becomes lengthier. So nomination makes the operational hassles less. And to that extent, nomination is very, very strongly recommended. What are the registered email ID and phone numbers with the bank? Now, why is it important? Because a lot of banks have already moved to green, paperless kind of movement that they initiated, the green movement, and account statements are only sent through email. Now, once again, a personal story. I was mentioning about a personal loss during second wave of COVID. My father passed away. While he was in the ICU, he spent a reasonably long time in the ICU. While he was in the ICU, my mother gave his email account details, the username and password to me, and said, just check if there are any important emails. And that should be, that helped big time in accessing details of, so although everything was written in a diary, but the email account also helped us access details of all his investments, his bank statements, latest bank statements, his NSDL holding statement, and that made the process a lot simpler. So the registered email account would get the latest bank statement, and that helps. Through the phone, you can talk to the phone bank, phone banking, and get the details about the bank details. So bank. So again, these things are important. If there are any credit card or debit card, or I don't know if any banks are issuing ATM cards these days, which are not debit cards, details of those, and of course, bank locker number. So this is as far as the banking is concerned. Let's come to the insurance policy, and this also is all encompassing. I've just collectively put all the insurance policies together. But as you can see on point number 3, it talks about life insurance, health insurance, critical illness, any other general insurance like, it could be vehicle insurance, property insurance, or whatever it is. So details of those need to be together with the insurance company's name. What's the policy number for each of the policies? In whose name is the insurance taken? Okay, so life insurance could be life insured, or health insurance could be the person insured. Even in case of vehicle insurance, the policy is taken in some individual's name for a particular vehicle, where the claim comes in that particular account. If the policy is a short-term policy or long-term policy, so that also, let's say, health insurance policy is to be renewed every year, vehicle insurance policy is to be renewed every year, but life insurance is a longer-term contract where the renewal happens through the renewal premium payment. Sorry. What are the dates on which the premium has to be paid? Now, this is important from a different point of view. The moment we think of insurance policy, the first thought is about life insurance. But think of another situation where I have bought a policy for my vehicle and I'm incapacitated or hospitalized for a certain period, and my family doesn't know that the insurance premium is due on a particular date. The policy, there is a risk that the policy may lapse. Now imagine the family is using that car and the insurance policy has expired. Look at the amount of risk that we are running. So this premium amount and premium, payment dates or renewal premium dates also should be noted down somewhere, and family must know about it. I'll come to some, other quicker aspects a little later. Once again, nomination and registered email or email ID or phone number. Demat account is relatively simpler because unlike bank accounts or insurance policies, we don't have too many of the options. But in this case, who's the DP depository participant, and the DP ID has to be known. The client ID in this case, and the holding pattern. So is it in single name, multiple names, etc., etc., which is a point that I've forgotten to mention out here in this. But add the holding pattern in this case, nomination details, and of course registered email ID and phone number. Incidentally, the demat account, the registered email ID in case of a demat account is critical, simply because the NSDL statement also comes on that email account. Now, many of us have fixed deposits with banks. Many of us have fixed deposits with private companies also. It's quite common to have deposits with some companies, and that's why bank oblique company is mentioned out here. With whom is the bank or deposit opened? If there is a branch that must be mentioned, in today's electronic age, a lot of banks have moved virtually. So whichever branch you go to, you can still access the details of your fixed deposit. And if the deposit is in electronic format, then it becomes branch agnostic. So that's why if it is applicable, you should know. If your money with cooperative banks, fixed deposits with cooperative banks or some of the smaller banks, then the chances are that they may not be fully electronic. They may be computerized, but still the deposit may be tagged to a branch, or in some of the finance companies where the deposits are taken, it is possible. So the branch name must be known. Whatever is the number of that fixed deposit or recurring deposit, what is the type, whether it is fixed deposit or recurring deposit. Once again, another detail that I've forgotten to mention is the interest payment dates. So a lot of people take periodic interest payments, payouts, or some people go for cumulative deposits. So that should be known, and the maturity amount would vary accordingly. So the amount invested, maturity amount, maturity date, who are the holders and what is the mode of operation. And finally, there also the details of nomination. Incidentally, mutual funds have tried to make things simpler. Of course, not to say that others have not done it, but in case of mutual funds, the easiest thing is every single account is linked to a PAN. And that means you give a PAN to the registrar, or you go to some of the facilities available, which is MF Central or the registrar's camps, K-Fintech, etc., and you can access details of all the funds registered with that respective entity. It's easier to get the details. Of course, your mutual fund distributor would also be really useful in getting all the details to you. And from that point of view, it becomes relatively easier. The procedures are also, completely and clearly mentioned. The websites of respective mutual funds have outlined all the details of accessing your money in various situations. So details are very similar, and that's why I'm not going into individual details. Now, the only thing that's not mentioned out here is the latest value of your investment. I only mentioned the invested amount. Now, if you know the investment date and investment amount, then to an extent, the respective fund house will be able to help you. If you know the folio number or the account number, the fund house would help you get the latest detail. But if you know the registered email ID, the chances are you will have the account statement and you will be able to see the value as of a recent date. Okay, so let's go back to mutual funds, and there again, once again, in my father's case, when I opened the email account, there was a particular closed-end fund which matured on during that date. So straight away there was an alert which was received in the email, and I could check with the bank whether the money has come in or not. It became that much easier to manage, because in case of mutual funds, if the email ID is registered, then all the transactions get notified through that email, and that again makes it quite easy. So banking, broking, mutual funds, wherever there could be multiple transactions, the registered email ID, registered phone number are critical because the transaction notifications come there. And the family should know the details of this email ID and phone number, and then getting the information becomes a lot easier. There could be various small saving schemes like National Savings Certificate, your PPF account, Senior Citizen Savings Scheme, Post Office Monthly Income Scheme. There could also be a National Pension Scheme that somebody may have taken, or for a daughter, somebody may have subscribed to Sukanya Samruddhi Scheme. So there are multiple options available, which I thought I would club together. From where the particular product was bought, whether it was a bank, whether it was a post office, where was it taken from? Details of that, along with the other details which are already discussed in the earlier cases. The PF has moved now to something called UAN. I think it's called unique account number, if I'm not mistaken. They've completely moved to that, and that is linked to the Aadhaar and phone number. And that's a great facility, because now with that UAN, one can go to the EPFO portal. So if you have the UAN and some other details and the phone with you, it'll be possible to check the latest account details and work out the process of withdrawal of that money. So this is another great facility that has taken place in last few years. Earlier, one had to physically go to the PF office. Now it's not required except in complicated cases. PF, they make nomination compulsory, and government pensions, although it's now becoming a thing of the past. Those who joined after 2004 do not have the pension unless some of the state governments reintroduce the old pension scheme all over again. But the transmission case in PF is again a very, very smooth process. The nominee has to, which is actually a family member. I mean, it's a family pension, so it's only the spouse who is eligible. The spouse has to visit once along with certain documents, including the bank details and PAN, Aadhaar, etc., etc. And that one visit is enough. And the next month onwards, the account gets changed, and the family member starts getting the family pension. So some of the things have processes have become quite smooth, but for that it's important to know these details first. This remains to be a slightly tough area. It's very much a localized thing. State government wise, there are differences. And still, some of the common things that we need are the first thing why I mentioned address of the property is because I have also combined investment properties along with the current house where one is living. So if there is a shop, office, another flat, or a plot of land, whatever one has, what is the exact address as per the details in the registrar office, property registration office. So that has to be the part of the agreement. That's always a part of the agreement and the other related documents. What are the names of the owners, and if there is any percentage ownership? Now, this percentage ownership becomes important. So one of the cases that we are struggling with, somebody struggling with, is where the main person of the house is paralyzed, and paralyzed really badly, except for moving eyelids. This person can't do anything, so can't speak. We don't know whether the person is able to hear or not, can't move hands or other limbs. And in that case, the hospital bill has been going up. They have a lot of investments in property, but unable to sell. It's procedurally very difficult. So first of all, the issue related to less liquidity with property, but also the operational hassles where a lot of legalities and complications get involved when a person, the owner, is in such a situation. Still, the documents and details must be known to the family, and only then the other actions can be taken. What's the size of the property, date of purchase, at what price the property was purchased, and again, in the society, if it's a, especially cooperative housing societies, their nomination details are possible, and there are a few court rulings where the society cannot stop transmission to the nominee. So at least in the society's book, the transmission must happen. Eventually, once that happens, and then one has to go and change with the registrar of properties. That takes a little while, but at least at the society level, this must happen. Now, for that, apart from nomination, you also need to know where is the share certificate lying, right? So that will cover in the documents later. If there are any outstanding loans, then also it becomes important. Now, look at the loans, and especially large loans, home loans in particular. So if there are outstanding home loans, did you take a home loan cover insurance, which a lot of banks are insisting? Because if that is available, then that must be mentioned in this documentation or in these details. And on production of the death certificate as well as that insurance policy, the insurance amount will take care of the outstanding loan. So there is no financial burden on the family. Once again, let's go back to the whole purpose of buying that home loan cover insurance. The whole idea was the EMI was being paid from the salary of the earning member. Now the person is no more, then the insurance policy would pay off the entire outstanding dues. This detail also must be linked somewhere. So if there is a loan, especially large loan, is it covered through any insurance policy or not? I know in many cases the interest rate and the EMI may vary depending on, or even the termination date of the loan agreement would vary depending on where the interest rates move, and the rates are floating in most cases. Still, wherever possible, the interest rate must be mentioned. If it is floating, put it in bracket that this is a floating rate. So at least the burden can be assessed. So if I have a loan, then my family should know in my absence what could be the burden, if at all. The last part is last point is important, and guarantor. I don't mean to say that I have a loan, then who is the guarantor? No, am I a guarantor in somebody else's loan? That is what I mean, because if that borrower is unable to pay, then the banks may approach the guarantor. So to that extent, that knowledge should be known to the should be available to the family. Well, whatever we discussed so far was largely about the physical stuff, but we have moved electronically. There is net banking, mutual funds are in demat mode, even insurance policies are available in electronic form. We moved to loans on electronic form. Share accounts, share broking accounts are completely online in many cases. Shares are in demat form. If such a situation exists, then there is a dilemma. First of all, we do have usernames and passwords, and in many cases, for security reasons, they ask us to change the password at every, in some cases 3 months, in some cases 6 months, some cases 45 days, etc., etc. So we have to keep changing the password. So this is a security reason. So password is ever changing, number one. Number two, all the financial institutions and all the regulators. So we hear that RBI advertisement, RBI कहता है. In all these cases, they highlight one particular point: don't share your username and password, don't share your PIN with anybody. And here I am saying, do you store the username and password somewhere, and do you share these details with your family? I leave that decision to you. I'm nobody to direct you to do this or that. On one hand, there is a safety issue. On the other hand, there is, on one hand, there's a security issue. On the other, the what if is hanging on our head. So you take a call. What do you do? But whatever you decide, and especially if you decide that you don't want to share the username and password with the family, then what is the alternative if they want to access? And that's where the physical stuff that we discussed so far comes in handy. I may be using net banking facility, but the alternative is I can still walk into the bank and withdraw my money, or I can use a checkbook to make a payment. Similarly, even if I'm using an online mutual fund account, I can redeem money through a signature, or I can do transmission in case of death through physical documents. Okay, so what is the alternative? And that alternative should be known. Okay, that was a duplicate slide, so I've skipped it. Now, we largely, we spent all the time talking about the products. Now, where are these documents placed? And I've divided the documents in 4 categories: personal documents, employment-related documents, the documents which are about financial matters as well as asset ownership, and finally, succession-related documents. So let's look at each of the documents. Ideally, this document should be at a place, and the family should know what that place is. It could be a folder, and some of the documents may not be in physical form, but some of the documents still are in physical form. Of course, the basic identity documents are known to everybody, and these documents can be used. These documents can be abused or misused, and to that extent, the family should know where these things are. PAN, Aadhaar, passport, driving license, voter's ID, ration card, birth certificates. Why do we need death certificates? If there are any legacy issue with the property owned by some of our family members who are deceased, then their death certificates become important to keep. Even in a few cases, when you do the family tree, which is required in a few cases in transfer of properties. So you showcase the whole lineage. There are many cases where the great grandparents' property is still not transferred because a few generations back we did not take these matters so seriously, and today the property is under dispute. Now the entire family tree has to be done. Now, when you do the family tree, then sometimes the respective government offices or the courts ask for the death certificate copies. So it's important to maintain these copies at certain place, and then the family should know where these things are. Whenever there is a change in name, especially in the Indian culture, the girl's surname gets changed. Sometimes even the name gets changed, and in such case, the marriage certificates become a critical document. The investment might have been when the girl was young, and today, after marriage, she has a different name. How do you establish that this certificate belongs to her? And that becomes important. Even today, I was going to a registrar's office for some share-related matters, and I saw at least 30% of the cases were pertaining to this. When the girl was unmarried, the investment was made by the parents in her name. Today she's married, she's living in another country, the surname is different, or even the name is different. And today, how do you transfer? So all these documents become important there to take court affidavit along with the marriage certificate, etc., etc. In some cases, the education certificate might be useful, and to that extent, they should be at a place not so critical, but good to have. The EPF number is what I mentioned earlier is the UAN number. There is a superannuation facility available, then is that superannuation account number. If there's a pension, then the pension account number. Pension, some of the state governments or some of the employers also provided that pension booklet. So that booklet becomes a document. Where do you keep it? Where are all these things? Okay, so one of the things that I would like to add out here, which is not there, should come a little later, is the details of key people at the workplace. No. Who do you reach out in the account HR admin department to talk about the employment related benefits? Or is there a senior in the company who you can reach out to? One document that I've not added out here is the PRAN, permanent retirement account number. In case you have an NPS account, they generate this PRAN and issue a PRAN card. So that document also should be maintained somewhere, and the family should know about it. Right. So I mean, I don't really need to elaborate on each of these details, except that if there is a health insurance and with cashless facility, then the details of who to reach out, or if there is a cashless card that can be submitted at the hospital straight, that should be known to the family. In certain cases, power of attorney may be required to operate certain accounts. So let's say if I am traveling abroad, can my family, access my bank account or investment accounts? For that, I can give a power of attorney. Or if I'm incapacitated, then also there could be a conditional power of attorney that with the doctor's certificate that power of attorney becomes operational. If there are such provisions made, then where are they? If the will is written, where is the copy of the will, or where is the original will? With whom is it? Is it registered, unregistered? Trust deeds are especially important when somebody has created family trust. And family trust becomes important, especially to take care of the minor children, children with certain special situations, disabilities, etc. To take care of them, the trust can be created. But then where are the trust deeds and who are the trustees? So the family should know about that as well. And finally, the people. Now, putting all these things together that we discussed so far is critically important. But in order to get the legwork done, in order for that last mile, share the contact details of all these people with your family. If it is a bank, then there could be 2 or 3 people from the bank that in that particular branch that the family should know about. Ideally, and again, I'm not talking about the call center, I'm only talking about physical branch. You can give a call center number and that becomes a little struggle, but knowing the branch manager or the operations manager or relationship manager personally helps in moving things faster. Who's the chartered accountant? If at all somebody is maintaining the books of accounts or doing taxation and other accounting related services or legal services. Is there a financial planner that you avail the services of? Who are the insurance agents for various products? And again, I've covered life, health, general, everything. Now, let's say health insurance, which is something that I've mentioned 2-3 times. And to my mind, it's a relatively common problem. Even if the facility is cashless and I don't know where the cashless card is, if I know from whom the policy was taken, the agent, that agent often can take care of the rest of the stuff. Because they know the processes and they've retained some of the details like who's the third party provider, what the policy what are the policy details, what are the allowed coverages, etc., and what is required to be done. So taking help of them is ideal. But for that, again, the family should know who these people are. You may have hired an investment advisor, you may be buying your mutual funds through a mutual fund distributor. Let your family know. Tell all the service providers that in case somebody from my family may get in touch with you, in case required. Ideal thing, the best thing to do is that you already introduced personally each of the service providers with the members of your family. That's the ideal situation. If you know by face, so my daughter knows that if something happens to me, who to call up for my mutual fund investments. It's that simple. She knows the person knows my daughter. That relation does wonders, especially in times of need. My chartered accountant comes home. I mean, we've been working virtually for years, but the chartered accountant comes home. Okay, chartered accountant is mentioned twice in this slide. The other thing that I wanted to mention was tax consultant. If the tax consultant is separate from a chartered accountant, it's possible in a few cases. My chartered accountant comes home once every 2 to 3 years. I know his family, he knows my family. Normally, we don't share this kind of relation with a chartered accountant because he actually takes care of my business account, less of my personal account. But my family knows who my chartered accountant is. And that's an important aspect that personally I feel. Now, the important details are discussed. Where do you keep, where do you store? If you are old school, you can maintain a diary or a register, or you can use an electronic sheet, which is actually a Microsoft Excel sheet. Disturbed because of the sore throat. So I maintain everything in Excel sheet. I maintain everything in an Excel sheet. And or okay, am I better now? Is the audio better now? Okay, okay. I'm so sorry for the disturbance. So I maintain all these details in an Excel sheet, and my wife and my kids know where that Excel sheet is. They also know the password to access that Excel sheet, and I don't change the password. Make it easier for them to know all these details at one place. Because in the end, the only message that I want to convey through this session is that going by the purpose of all these financial instruments that we use so effectively, if the money lying in my investment account is not accessible at the time of need, then it is actually worse than not having money. If I didn't have money, anyway, it doesn't really help. I would not, do a few things, but here I have a sort of security that I've got so much money and it'll take care of my family. But after I'm gone, it doesn't take care of my family. It can't be worse than that. So with that, sobering message, I would end this session. And if there are any questions, then let's take those. I can see a lot of questions are there in chat and Q&A. So let me just go through this questions and okay, so somebody's mentioned Sandeep Goyalji has mentioned preparing an Excel sheet for all the investments is a good idea, but if there is no will, then all the investments will be equally divided among the legal heirs. Nominees can't claim ownership of the funds, as Nomination Act does not give ownership of fund, it gives caretaker rights. So if you haven't drafted the will, you are leaving a mess for the family. You are 100% right, Sandeep ji, spot on. This is equally critical, having a will in place. I'll go one step further, and what Sandeep has mentioned about nominations, the limitation of nomination. Now, nominee has the right to receive, not right to own. The legal heirship lies somewhere else. So legal heirship goes by the will first, and then in the absence of will, it goes by the succession acts or succession laws. So long as possible, when you write a will, align the nominations with what is written in the will. Once you've done that, that means through the process of nomination, the money would anyway go to the rightful legal heirs. And that makes life easier for them. Thank you, Sandeep, for this prompt. Really appreciate. Okay, Ramchandra Bhattji, preparing an Excel sheet is a good idea. Yeah, sure. Okay, so DigiLocker, DigiLocker, somebody has mentioned, please tell us about DigiLocker also. Personally, I've not used DigiLocker, so I'm not so familiar with DigiLocker, but that's another great facility where the documents can be stored. But when you store the documents in your DigiLocker, then how does the family access the DigiLocker is equally important, right? So do they have access to that DigiLocker is the thing that you need to question. Thank you so much. This DigiLocker is also a brilliant idea. Personally, I've not used, but otherwise, it's a good idea. Good suggestion to the family head. Long back, I prepared one Excel sheet named Family Book containing all the suggestions. Ravi Ramanaji, fantastic. This is a great effort. And then you shared it through Google Drives. Wonderful. So you can put all these things in Google Sheet and share with your family and allow them the access. You can share it through Google Drive, whichever way you are comfortable, which is perfectly fine. Great. How to purchase property from zero investment, like Robert Kiyosaki. Okay, so Robert Kiyosaki, I won't comment on that. Number two, purchasing of property, etc., is not in the scope of today's talk. So I'm not really talking about it at all. Okay, lot of requests for recording. What I can, would it be possible to download the sheet with list of all details being mentioned? So I think I don't know whether we are sharing the recording or not, but this entire presentation can be shared, so that's possible. I will give it to the masterstroke team, and they can then share it with all of you. Oh, this is a brilliant one. Anil Nayarji absolutely would like to show the recording to family members. Yes, I think, Anilji, that's a brilliant thought. Please, I would request everybody else to do that if the recording is available. Otherwise, the sheet can be shared and you can discuss whatever points you have picked up with them. Then there are a few. Please tell about DigiLocker we did discuss. Can you share the copy of this presentation? So Nand Kishorji, I'll share it with the Masterstroke team, and then they can do the needful. Ram Bhuvanji, sir, can you share the Excel template? Okay, let me do that as well. Whatever I have, I will try and share whatever I have with you. Maximum population is hand to mouth. Please tell me how to rise from below poverty line to middle class. Harendra Kumarji, that could be the subject of a topic of another session. Today it was on a different topic, so we just restricted to this and not covering what you asked. Okay, so that I think covers all the questions also. Priya ji, how this session can be arranged? I have already mentioned my email ID, but I would request you go through whoever you approached and whoever has brought you here, or the Masterstroke team. If you can just put a request to them, they can get in touch with me and we can organize. We'll be really happy to reach out to as many people as possible. I would suggest if your mutual fund distributor has brought you, just talk to that mutual fund distributor. If you are yourself a mutual fund distributor, talk to Masterstroke team, and then let's take this forward from there. Okay, so this is slightly different from today's topic. Ashay Doshi, any books which you would suggest the younger generation to read? To understand money, the best book that I found in India, especially for younger generation,